Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're doing hospitality operations, and we're still focusing on, accommodation services, and specifically on the food and beverage section. We've looked previously at, the menu and the menu pricing strategies and the costing and standardization of different recipes, and so now we're moving on to the menus itself. So we're gonna look at trying to understand the importance of menus, identify the factors in menu design, implement menu planning knowledge, and to apply food and beverage operation practices to a new restaurant business development. So, menu planning. According to Walker 2013, the menu may be the most important ingredient in a restaurant success. Menus must follow the restaurant concept. The concept must be based on what the customer expects, their expectations. The menu must exceed the customer's expectations. So the importance of the menus, the menu is what drives the communication. The menu is a delivery system. Menu as a central management document. For instance, all the different products, the different range of products, the different sizes and what's going to be offered, which then dictates, meeting those customers' needs by that menu design, which then links back into forecasting, which then leads into ordering the ingredients for that menu. So it runs the whole process. Menu as personal expression of the chef and the business, and then menu as a merchandising tool, the menu as an advertising tool, which leads into the menu as a marketing tool, menu as a brand. Even thinking about the restaurant I went to in London, normal dim sum, Chinese breakfast, steamed food, and yet in the steamed dim sum, when it was presented, obviously everything was cooked fresh, but the difference being from normal dim sum is that they, as I stated before, that they had caviar, red caviar and black caviar on the dim sum itself. So the menu is important to the whole operation of your restaurant, your business. Some considerations of the menu planning includes, taking into consideration, the equipment, facilities that are available, because obviously if you're going to be cooking certain types of food, and certain types of food might need, depending upon who you're targeting and what you're doing, if it's a 5-star, if it's a Michelin chef, you might need specialist equipment. And what about the labor, skills and time available? You need the right chefs in place, you need the right people with the right experience to be able to cook what you actually want to the standards that you want it cooked. Perfect menu in terms of making sure that it meets the needs of your target customers, and to make sure that you are able to make a profit and take into consideration all the other financial considerations. You need to obviously review the product availability and the quality. As I said to you before, a dim sum that I had was had very specialist items on it. So are those specialist items available? Time and seasonal considerations, and what are the guest expectations? Who are you targeting? Obviously, you should have done your STP, your segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Segmentation in terms of geographic, demographic, behavioralistic, and psychographic segmentation. These are the different groups, and then the different variables under those different groups. Then you target from that segmentation, and then you position in relation to that targeting market and your competition. And then you need to take into consideration the taste, the variety, the complexity, and the psychology behind it. Also, the appearance, the temperature, the texture, the consistency, and the flavour, making sure again it meets the expectations of who you're trying to sell it to. And also the nutrition and the psychology behind that. So again, you've got various physical factors that you need to take into consideration, and and you need to take into consideration various aesthetic considerations. When we look at menu types, you've got the a la carte, where all dishes are priced and sold separately, and table d'hôte in terms of groups, several menu items together sold for one price. Menu design, again, menu principles, sequence of courses. What is going to be the sequence of your courses? Is it interlinked with the service? And the menu dish content. Menu dish content in terms of, meet the food trends, in terms of fusion, healthy eating, low fat, cultural influences, in terms of taking into consideration local and religious factors. Dietary requirements in terms of allergies and diabetes, very big today, especially in meeting various legislation. And dietary choices in terms of vegetarian, which again, from a social perspective, the market for different types of foods are a lot more segmented now than what it was 20 years ago. You've got, more people who are vegans. You've got people who want specialty foods and variety and fusion. So again, in this kind of diverse, changing marketplace with loads of technology, obviously depending upon the marketplace you're targeting, you're going to see a wider variety of different elements that you need to take into consideration or even consider, especially the contents of the ingredients of foods and making that available to people, and perhaps staying away from various ingredients that could have various negative consequences to your customer base. Menu design, technical considerations of the menu design, which includes varied colors of food. And what about the variety in terms of different textures? Controlling the amount of ingredients and the repetition. The variety between hot and cold dishes. The variety between different cooking methods and ease of eating and the method to be served. Again, all these elements need to be taken into consideration. Obviously, all dependent upon the market you're in, what you're trying to achieve, your pricing strategies, and your type of customer who you're serving to. Menu language sets the theme. Customer expectations on food prior to eating can affect their sensory evaluation of it. Using descriptive language can help influence perceptions and introduce new foods. Relevant categories of descriptions include, place of origin, breed, brand, method of procurement, foreign words. And again, all these things, customer expectations of food kind of link to affect people's sensory, taste before they've even accepted it. And this is absolutely true. If you look at the example of the test that was done in Tesco's, where there was a food tasting session going on, and there was Heinz baked beans, and there were two cans. One can was a can of Heinz baked beans, and then there was another can of baked beans which had no label on it, and there were different tasting bowls for both the Heinz beans and the other can which had no label on it. And when customers tasted both samples from the Heinz beans can and from the other can that had no label on, in fact 80% of customers actually found that they preferred the Heinz beans better. But in fact, both the cans were actually the same. They were both Heinz, but we'd just taken off the label of the other can that didn't have any that didn't have the Heinz label on it. And yet the perception of people, because it didn't have the Heinz label on it, was that the Heinz beans, even though they were the same, they came literally from the same company, even though they were the same, tasted different. And so, in other words, people's expectations and people's perceptions can affect how they view and taste and how the food tastes and the perception that they have afterwards. So very, very important. It's an example here of a menu, baked crab ham roll. I mean, I have to say that 20-25 years ago, when you're looking at Chinese restaurants never had the menus written in English. The menus were all written in Chinese, and it didn't tailor and cater for the English speaking marketplace. But later on they developed this, and now the menu itself has been developed further and further. But this again shows a more recent menu with English translation. Menu presentation sets the theme in terms of the color, size, image. Casual or fine dining. As a sales tool, can influence what is ordered. Ease of use, readability, easy to hold. Location, layout, location on the page interlinked with how customers read the menu. And again, the menu itself is changing with the use of technology. As I said to you before, I went to a restaurant and they didn't have any menus on the table. What they had was a barcode, and with your phone, you put your phone over the barcode, and then the menu came up on your mobile. So again, new technologies. And even with the menu, I've seen it in another Chinese restaurant where they had the menu in digital technology in the table. So you had this table and the menu was in the table, and you pressed on actually what you wanted, and you put your credit card details in, and you ordered from your table. So you didn't actually need a waiter to come up to you and take your order. You actually placed your order from the menu in the table itself, and then put your credit card details in, and then they served you. So again, the way technology is being involved in terms of the presentation of the menu is also changing as well. Menu layout, again, how customers normally read a menu from right to left. So top right, and then bottom right, and then top left, and then bottom left. So what we're saying is, you put the most important things, on the top right for what you want the customers to see. And generally how people read newspapers as well. They go to the top right, bottom right, and then top left, and then bottom left. So if we look at the management actions, then from a management perspective, we need to ensure that there is consistent products and quality. And here we're talking about the control and use of raw materials, the preparation, cooking methods. We need to monitor the presentation, the texture, the taste, as well as monitoring, cost and control, purchases, labor, food waste and energy. And we need to do that in order to make sure that, we make a profit. Because if we're not monitoring and standardizing the recipes and monitoring the edible portions as opposed to as purchased, and the differences in the percentages that we know go into making the EP as opposed to the AP, then this could have a big effect on our profit margins. Obviously depending upon type of restaurant and type of target market that you have as well, but very, very important for management actions to ensure the consistent products and quality, to maintain and meet the customers' expectations, and also to maintain a good control over costs. Here's a group task here. So to develop a Chinese menu for a 3-star hotel restaurant, which includes lunch and dinner. So new restaurant concepts, what common factors are important to a restaurant success, regardless of type. And this includes, clear missions. What is the mission? What are the goals and the objectives? What is the market? Who are you targeting? I keep talking about targeting all the time, because obviously your menu, your design, the dishes that you're serving, to what type of marketplace, who you're targeting from your segmentation, and how you're trying to position that in relation to your competitors. Again, what is the concept? And again, where are you based? What location are you? If you're based in Mayfair, London, well, your pricing and your menu and your cooking procedures and so on and your presentation is all going to be vastly different to someone in, say, Croydon. Menu planning, again, the ambience and the feel of the restaurant, again, needs to be taken into consideration. The quality, the pricing, leadership and the profit. So all these things are important to a restaurant success regarding of type. So again, we've looked at the fan model before. The fan model in terms of the room, the atmosphere, the ambience of the room, and what you're trying to achieve. The meeting between the waiters taking you down and serving you. The product itself, the product in terms of the food and the portions and how it's presented. And then outside of this, you have the atmosphere and the whole feel, and what your expectations in terms of your feeling and what you need and what you expect from the delivery and the food and the ambience. And then outside of that, you have the management control systems, the whole process, what actually happens from start to finish. So new restaurant concepts as a task here. So you have recently acquired a restaurant unit on a busy high street in the city centre. You are close to many businesses and shops, while also in the vicinity of the theatre. The site has a capacity of up to a 60-seat restaurant, but has a limited kitchen space. So using research in a current restaurant trends, identify an appropriate concept. What is the concept that you want? Apply conceptual frameworks in developing the concept, considering the following: the interior design, the ambience, the menu, kitchen production methods, service style, target market, pricing strategy, management and staffing structure, and so on and so forth. So again, look at this and think about the task at hand, and also bear that in mind for the case example and the case example that you're doing for your assignment as well. So in summary, we've kind of looked at and applied the food and beverage operation practices to a new restaurant business development. We've tried to understand the importance of menus. We've identified factors in the menu design, and we've tried to implement menu planning with knowledge. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.